What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of My Team Career here on F123. Today we head out to Baku for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, but first, in case you missed the last one, we battled it out in Melbourne for the Australian Grand Prix. We brought a pretty sizable upgrade package to that Albert Park circuit, but due to a poor setup decision by me ultimately, and being unable to extract a strong enough pace during qualies, we settled for 14th place and were kind of brought back down to reality after a really great finish in Jeddah. So looking over our current R&D projects, we finally get in that cable assembly chassis upgrade that failed in the last video. So this unlocks some crucial tire wear upgrades, which we desperately need with this entry-level car, as tire wear has been very apparent in the early goings of our season compared to those around us. So we will go ahead and purchase the tire blanket upgrade. That'll arrive in time for Baku, as well as a minor engine power upgrade as we look to just remain competitive with the likes of Haas, who, by the way, has looked very, very fast and surprisingly competitive in the early on points of the season. And we want to just maintain with Alpine, McLaren, Alpha, and so on. And speaking of remaining competitive, because we achieved level 5 for our team last race, we do unlock the potential to sign another sponsor alongside our primary one, Serene. There are a ton of really great sponsors here that I'm, sure would all provide really good benefits to the team with some attainable goals. But I think the one that suits us best is Indlova. I'm not quite sure if I'm saying that right, but ultimately the goal is very accessible. We only need to achieve 3 points in a single race, which we've already done once. And the goal to weekly income value is something that we really need. Remember, we started this career with reduced cash and resources compared to the AI drivers, so any extra money we can earn early on will go a very, very long way. We'll spend a little bit of time here just customizing the livery with our new sponsors. I'm actually not a huge fan of some of the positions EA has chosen for these templates on the My Team car livery. I'm hoping in future iterations of this game, or even in future patches, they at least give us the ability to, move them up and down or scale them to our liking, because it just doesn't suit for every type of livery that they have in the game, and you probably wouldn't stick a decal over certain parts of the paint job. So hoping they change that, but nonetheless, as we progress towards race week, we do get all of our upgrades in, which is a massive bump as we bring in another strong package to show off a very, very tricky street circuit. So combined with the last week's additions, I am fairly confident that we could get a better result in Australia. But before we leave the R&D hub, we are going to start the development of the major drag reduction upgrade. This is 1,200 points. It's a pretty sizable upgrade. It's going to come in just after Imola, but if we need to start getting these major upgrades going so we have them for the later parts of this season. And here you can just see the new package that we are entering qualies with, as well as where we kind of slot in the overall R&D chart compared to our competitors. While we are still near the bottom end, as I mentioned, we have taken a step forward this week and at least remain close to the likes of Williams, Haas, Alpine, McLaren. We're all kind of just jumbled up there behind Aston Martin. But if we want to continue down, increasing the car and remaining competitive, we got to make sure that we're not stalling out or, just falling too far behind these guys. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so over to qualifier for the sprint race. If you remember this, Baku is a sprint race, and unfortunately in the game, they do not have the new format. So this is the one from last year where you qualify, and then you have the sprint race, and the sprint race will determine your positioning for the actual race on Sunday. So today we are doing the qualifiers for the sprint race, and we have a pretty nice setup going here. At this point, I was pretty happy with my time going. It wasn't anything close to what you see at the top here from Carlos Sainz, or you'll see Verstappen in a moment here. But feeling a lot better than we did out in Australia. It's a very different circuit. You kind of have to figure out where to brake and where to throw on the throttle. It's going to take a couple laps here to really get going. And as we round this final part of, and unfortunately the overconfidence came back to bite us, because unfortunately as we are rounding the final real turn here of our first qualifier lap, I got a little overconfident, took a peek at the top time chart there, and because that wall isn't flat, we just clipped it with the front tire, and it just shattered and exploded our tire and our front suspension, broke our nose, and that was it for qualifiers, ladies and gentlemen. As quick as it came, it left super fast as well. So unfortunately, that is the first mistake I have really made in pretty much all of F123 up until this point. Again, I just took my eyes off the road for just a moment, and that was enough there. As we're kicked out of qualifiers, we're gonna have to settle for the back of the grid there for the sprint race, and hoping that we can just improve, because again, with this old format, that is going to be our true qualifier. So we're going to head out to the sprint race here at Baku, and well, let's just watch.
you okay? That was a
That is right, ladies and gentlemen. We didn't even make it out of turn 1. We got off to such a good start. No, that is not a duplication of the cinematic you just saw. That is us being retired from the sprint race. We got off to such a good start. We passed the AlphaTauri car right off the beginning, and we caught so many guys sleeping. We made about 3 or 4 overtakes early, and we were on the inside racing line. As you saw, the McLaren and the Haas car on the left side of the screen right now. In a moment, they'll be on the right side, and they just were battling it out. So we slipped on the inside. We are well ahead. We're a full car length ahead, and while they're battling, they just kind of make contact and turn back into me, and essentially the only people that were taken out of the race was myself and Oscar Piastri, as we're on board here with Oscar Piastri. So you see that Haas right there is Nico Hulkenberg, who got off to a great start and passed both of them, but they both got hung up behind him, and you can see our car. That is a great overtake. That is a safe overtake. We are miles ahead as we enter the brake zone, and we stick to the inside, giving them so much room. But again, just because they were battling it out, they kind of lost positioning here, and he just snaps back, touches my tire, which spins me into Piastri, and we were both taking out of the race. So unfortunately, the bad luck continues here in Baku, as we're going to be at the back of the grid for the start of the race. Unfortunately, Piastri did get knocked out as well, so we will start 1 ahead of him, but just disaster here in Baku early, so going to need a good race on Sunday to make up for this one.
Welcome to you from Azadlik Square, heart of Baku, and home, of course, to the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. With high speeds, tight corners, and few runoff zones, many are expecting a safety car here today. So our drivers will have to stay very much on their toes, and hopefully out of the barriers. With 20 turns and a length of 3.7 miles, Baku City Circuit in the heart of the Azerbaijan capital is a real test of a driver's endurance, patience, and precision. 90-degree corners through Sector 1 lead into a tightening uphill sprint as we start to circle around the old city. Then a 1.4-mile chase flat out through Sector 3 towards the finish line. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. World champion Max Verstappen starts from pole position, edging out Sergio Perez, who lines up P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Russell, Hamilton, Sainz, Fernando Alonso, Norris, Gasly, Albon, Stroll, Bottas, Magnussen, Joe, Tsunoda, Sargent, De Vries, Ocon, Nissany, and the owner driver rounds off the grid, Oscar Piastri. Now it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track. It's race day yet again, and joining me for a chat is Anthony Davidson. And our racers are certainly in for a rough day today. What will you be watching out for as they head into turn 1?
Well, the start of the race is always one of the most nerve-wracking parts. You have to hope that everyone is able to get off to a clean start, and this is possibly the trickiest part of the entire race. So many drivers in such a small space, and finding your braking point into turn 1 as well. It's a testament to the driver's skill that there aren't more incidents.
All right, guys, so the strategy we decided to go with here for this Grand Prix was, we could stick with the default strategy of softs to mediums or hards to mediums, but I figured, you know what, we're starting from the back of the grid. Let's be a little bit more aggressive. We're going to actually overcut starting on the hards and then end the race on the softs. Hopefully that gives us, a good position if we start off strong, be able to defend a little bit longer, and then we can pit later than most of the field and have those fresh softs. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen, for the Baku Grand Prix. It is 5 red lights are now out, and we get off to a really good start. Exactly what we were just talking about as we pass our teammate De Vries, Ocon, and then we slip to the inside, similar to what we did in the sprint race, but it comes off clean, and now we're neck and neck with Aston Martin of Lance Stroll. So a really good start here by us, and this is exactly what we needed starting on those hard compounds. We really needed to get off to a good start, put some pressure on, and now we can just use these compounds, warm them up a little bit, and put the pressure as we're looking to do that on Joe here, as we just throw on the battery, drain a little bit, and we're just going wheel to wheel racing here with the Alfa Romeo driver, and we'll just brake a little bit later than he, and that is a perfect overtake to gain up into position 12. And now we're just nestled behind, Gasly, Bottas, all these guys behind. I believe that's Carlos Sainz up in 8th position, and just looking to just continue this pace and maintain it. We can play defense on these hard compounds so that later in the race we're off to a good position. But just as we round this corner, we get a really bad notification.
Somewhere on the internal combustion engine, be aware that we're going to start to see a loss of power.
So as we almost clip to the back of Gasly there in the Alpine, we get the notification that parts of our engine are overheating. That's not something you want to hear in the first lap of a Grand Prix, as we kind of just have a little bit of snap of oversteers. We're still just warming up these harder compounds. We'll quickly check the engine, and as we go there, you can see that the internal combustion engine does have a small amount of wear. It's nothing that I don't think is going to be too drastic here. You can see it's just slightly less green than we're hopeful. So right now we're going to keep an eye on that all races. Again, that's not something you want to hear in the first lap, but as we just ease towards the end of this lap 1, we're still in an okay position. We kind of lost a little bit of time there around that bend, just trying to warm up. Again, we're on the hard compounds. Look at the leaderboard. There's not too many guys that are sitting on that hard compound. Everybody's on the mediums or softs to start this race, and they are getting very, very good results out of those tires. So for us, it's just playing defense. We'll hop back to the start of the race here, and as lights go out, you're going to see us, and we're basically just going to drive straight. Everybody kind of cuts to the outside wall, and we're just going to just do a really good job. We slip to the outside, and we pass about 7 cars there. That is a beautiful, beautiful move there. Again, it was something that we were trying to do similar to what we did in the sprint race, but we pulled it off with masterclass precision. And as we approach this first lap here of the Castle Chicane, you'll see that Verstappen, as always, gets off to a beautiful start in that Red Bull, followed by Leclerc, Perez, then the 2 Mercedes, followed by Norris, who had a great jump here early in this race. Alonso, Sainz, Albon, the Williams driver, is back up into 9th, followed by Bottas rounding out the top 10, and then we're closely behind Pierre Gasly in that Alpine, as we'll just rewatch this first part of lap 1. But again, it was just such a phenomenal start, and that's everything we wanted with this strategy. We just needed to, Guan Yu Zhou tried ripping on the outside, maybe a snap of oversteer as he looks to defend from Stroll, but just a great race start all in all. That's something that I've been very proud of at the start of this season, is just being able to get off to good starts here. And this is where we picked up, or we left off last time, as we pick up here on the final pit straight, and you see 3 cars wide, also with Yuki Tsunoda of the AlphaTauri car right behind us. We do a good job, just we drained so much battery there just to stay ahead of these guys, but that was a beautiful shot of about 3-4 cars wide, just all gunning it down that straight. And here you go as we approach the next straight of this, and unfortunately that car of Lance Stroll, it's been a very fast car for Alonso, but unfortunately for Stroll, he just hasn't been able to extract that pace, and he goes a little bit wide there off that turn, and then he bumps off the curb, and he actually damages our front right wing end plate. So unfortunately for Lance Stroll, he went to make that overtake back over the curb, and he just got the full wrath of that sausage curb and lost a little bit of control and bounced back into us. That was no fault of our own. It was a little bit of an aggressive play there as we hop up the lap 4. So dealing with a little bit of front wing damage, but not enough to really call for the pit stop. You see we lose a little bit of handling late here, but we're still in that 12th position. You can see on the leaderboard, we have gained a beautiful gap there, 2 seconds from Lance Stroll after that incident, and Guan Yu is 2.5 seconds behind. So we are doing a great job just trying to bridge that gap. It's what I was talking about. If we can get off to a good start, we can warm up the hard tires. Later in the race, in the first stint, we can just try and bridge that gap even further, so when we go to pit about a lap or 2 after the rest of the field, we're hopping on a soft compounds, and we should be in a beautiful position to at least attack for this same position, or maybe even try and squeeze up to Gasly. But unfortunately, that Alpine, that Alfa Romeo, when they get clean air, they're just miles ahead here. So we'll have a quick look. This is just slightly behind us as Guan Yu Zhou just overtakes Stroll. So I'm not quite sure. Stroll didn't pit up until this point. So with that bump, I'm sure he has a little bit of damage, but he decided not to pit. So that is Guan Yu doing a great job to overtake the Aston Martin. And this is just slightly behind Ocon. And what's really frustrating for me is the Alpines have been extremely fast cars all season long. They've done a great job of battling it for points, but they've gotten off to such terrible qualifiers that they're starting so far back. You can see Ocon started the race only a couple positions ahead of us, so he's going to have to do a really, really good job of trying to climb back to get into position to at least fight for his teammate who's in 11th position just ahead of us. But this is a quick look here, lap 5 now. Max Verstappen is doing a good job, but I got to give credit to Charles Leclerc. That Ferrari is nowhere near as fast as that Red Bull, but he's still maintaining that within 2 seconds. So while he doesn't have DRS, both of them in clean air, it's showing that Ferrari has done very well. Reliability aside, it is a fast car, as Perez is 3 seconds behind now. So it'll be interesting to see how that fight remains at the top here as we jump up to lap 6. This is us here, just checking to make sure everything's okay. You can see there's slight tire wear starting on the backs. That back left is hit a little, or back right, sorry, is hit a little bit harder than the fronts, and that's kind of what you expect here. But we do have a decent gap, but Remember, a lap ago, we were 2 seconds ahead. We haven't had any troubles as we just about go wide and slam to the wall there. That'll lose some time. But Guan Yu and those mediums are just putting the pressure on us now. They have gained a 1.5 seconds in 1 lap. So it just shows the kind of tire degradation that we're dealing with as a brand new car into the My Team career space here. And beautiful little trackside shot there as the cars just behind us as the Haas, who typically has done very well this year, is now battling it out with Lance Stroll. So Lance Stroll's under some more fire from the Haas team. And that is just crazy to see the Aston Martin driver of Lance Stroll struggle so much. Now Ocon, the man I mentioned before, is also trying to make it overtake, and he completes around the outside of turn 1. So into lap 7 here. Oh man, Lance Stroll has been passed by Kevin Magnussen and Esteban Ocon. So just some unreal scenes there early as we now jump back to our race, and the gap is now 2 seconds as it's going to be Guan Yu looking to make the inside lunge on us. We'll break a little bit late. We still have some traction in these hards, and we make sure that overtake is not complete, and that's a great move there. Just a good defensive break late. Make sure you hug that outside wall. Give him lots of space if he wants to try and push that. But now we have a little bit of room there. 0.8 of a second, 0.9. So doing a good job. And as you can see on lap 7 here, we just set our fastest sector, and that is still without DRS. So while we have some charged battery and just maintaining, you know, a good racing line, we can actually still get some pace out of these. But it's this corner right here that you're really seeing the struggle of the tires later in this stint 1 mixed in with that. Remember, we have slight wing damage on that front right side. So beautiful shot here of the castle on the Baku street circuit. Yeah, just doing a good job, just trying to maintain it. My goal from this point, my mindset is just defend. If you can get into the pits later, you know, we are overcutting as long as, you know, the wheels hold on, the tire grip holds on. We're going to overcut by a lap, so we should gain a few positions up until, you know, hopefully 8th or 7th, and then when we pit, we'll come back out around this position. But you can just see the ICE is at 61%, so it is overheating fast out here. The gearbox is actually starting to go as well. So at a time when I've, you know, complemented the Mercedes engine, we are now here for the Baku race, and we're starting to see some engine wear. So we got to keep an eye on that in the future races in the upcoming weeks. It's still in an okay position, but a beautiful aerial shot here as we complete lap 9. The speed of Guan Yu Zhou and Esteban Ocon 3 wide again here, and it just leaves our car in the dust. I mean, that just shows you the immense speed that DRS has. We're going to look to make a play here on the inside. Can we complete it? No, Zhou does a great job of just cutting that off. But unfortunately, that's just what we deal with. The pace of the car isn't quite where we need it to be yet. Again, we've had a couple failure upgrades up until this point. A little aggressive play there by Ocon as he goes over the curb. And with DRS, we're showing the speed now as these tires, the double overtake as we slip to the inside. And we will look to make the move on Guan Yu here. And we get the job done. A little bit of I'm not quite sure where the collision warning came from, because I thought that was a beautiful overtake. You know, we slipped behind him after the move on Esteban and then slipped to the inside. So it must have just been a really light bump there, tire to tire, because other than that there was no contact. So kind of a weird warning from the FIA as we get this beautiful shot here rounding this corner. But again, just a nice double overtake. We regain position 10 now because people are starting to pit, so we're in that points position, although we're you know, fully aware that when we pit we're not going to be right here. But this is a really good start as we need to maintain this position for a couple more laps so we can look to actually make it into the pits and get out ahead of Guan Yu and Ocon. But it's kind of going to be a case of cat and mouse, you know, a little bit of back and forth, if you will, down these straights, especially when the DRS flaps open coming down the pit straight there. But again, just every corner, we still have a little bit of grip. I'm actually a little surprised, granted that, you know, the tires are going. We do have that engine issue, so if you notice me easing up a little bit more into these corners, it's just not to, I just don't want to overheat the engine and have a DNF due to that. So here we go, first rounds of pit stops, and this was a little bit weird here. Lap 11, we see Alonso coming into the pits, makes his pit stop, which goes onto the soft compound, so nothing wrong here. A pretty good pit stop from him, but this is where the race really takes a weird turn. As Alonso goes to exit the pit straight, watch this. I don't even know what just happened. Alonso comes out of the pit straight and then just teleports behind and comes to a standstill. Watch this from his cockpit view. He just teleports back to the right. And the weirdest thing about this is he was given a 5-second penalty for no reason. We'll watch this one more time. Watch this. He rounds the corner and then all of a sudden he magically teleports back outside of the pit straight, and because of that, he's given a 5-second penalty. So some weird things happening in here in Baku, and what's even weirder now as we go to make our pit straight is we are barely ahead of so many guys. So I'm thinking here as we go to enter for our pit, what the heck is going on in this race? Because obviously I didn't see that incident with Alonso above. We're right behind him now, but we were, you know, we were a second and a half above Guan Yu, and we were at 2 seconds ahead of Stroll. And now as we enter our pit stop to go onto the softs, everybody is passing us. What in the world happened? This is a lot. So we just pitted at the end of lap 12 into 13. The last of the rest of the field was on lap 12. So how is it that we were so far ahead, but then all of a sudden everybody in the field has passed us? And you can tell Guan Yu's in the same position. Stroll, we were all up into P6 and 7 when that incident with Alonso. So I had to do some digging after the race because I was a little, you could probably tell maybe by my aggressive driving. Watch this. This was shortly after Alonso. This is one of many. This is the Williams driver of Sargent. Goes in for softs, on softs, and pits on 2 softs. So he did an illegal pit stop, not changing onto another compound, and half the field, there was about 6 guys that pitted right after Alonso, that incident with Alonso, all went from softs to softs and were able to just floor it for the next lap, gaining about 4 seconds to catch the rest of the field. So there has been bugs after bugs in this race, and unfortunately for us, a beautiful overcut. There was nothing wrong with my strategy. Maybe it was a little over aggressive and I may have lost 1 or 2 positions, but Stroll, myself, and Guan Yu, we were all up into P8 when we started to pit. All of a sudden, we're in dead last. So as you see, I do make a great overtake there on the softs on Lance Stroll, but what in the world? This is race-breaking bugs. We saw the incident with Alonso. He was given a BS 5-second penalty for some stupid glitch, and anybody who pitted after Alonso stayed on the same compound, which is totally illegal. And I had to watch the full race back to make sure they didn't pit twice and we're just going back onto a new pair of softs. No, that video of Sargent was him, his only pit stop, coming in there, pitting onto softs again. And then now here on lap 15, Carlos Sainz, unfortunately, the Ferrari curse continues in our fantasy world of F1 as he rounds this corner. And I mean, looking pretty good. He's up into P6. And just you can see the engine failure right there as he rounds this corner. A puff of smoke, a second puff of smoke. And I believe that is now every race this season, somebody for Ferrari has forced a DNF due to car reliability issues. So a little bit of frustration in this race, guys. I can't explain it. I've watched the replay 2-3 times, trying to understand what the heck happened as we have a look at the leaders. Max Verstappen leading Charles Leclerc again. Got to give him credit. He's hanging with the big boys as now Perez has closed that gap a little bit. So that looks like it'll be 1, 2, 3 as the Mercedes fall a little bit farther behind here. But man, after seeing that with Alonso and not understanding what the heck happened, because we caught up to him so quick and he had that 5-second issue. It's now Albon looks to make the move onto Alonso. Doesn't quite complete it, but it's great to see some of these guys. You see Norris up in a 6. You see Albon in the Williams car up to 9. So fighting for points. Bottas has closed the gap really fast on him. But yeah, just, I mean, our race is all but over at this point as we hop over to lap 18, final lap. We are closing the gap on Nick DeVries and Nissany, both in those medium compounds. And we're flying out there. We're setting our fastest lap after fastest lap, driving with a little bit of aggression. But unfortunately for us here in Baku, our race, our plan was, you know, we took the penalty, we had to upgrade some parts, and unfortunately that's all she wrote there, and not much we could really do aside from that. Just unfortunate bugs. You know, there are bound to be some bugs here in the game early. I've seen there's a bunch of red flag bugs, thing like that, but to see Alonso just, you know, handed a penalty for some weird teleportation bug, and then from that point on, anybody who pitted that was an AI on that lap 12 just ahead of us to go onto the same compound is just, it's unfortunate to see. But you know what, I mean, there's nothing we can do. We can't change it. We're not going to restart the race or anything like that. We're kind of just have to take our medicine. We're doing everything we can to gain a couple positions, but I mean, at this point, battling for 19th and whatever this might be is just not worth it. But looking forward to this race. Again, we had to deal with you know, starting at the back of the grid, and unfortunately that's just the way it rolls. You know, we had that penalty, we had the issue in the sprint race, and as we round these last few corners. We're trying to give it everything we have as we just go a little bit wide there. You can see the wear on the engine now, 65% for the internal combustion engine, and then the gearbox up to 66% as well. So we're gonna have to do some replacement parts here. But ladies and gentlemen, as we enter the final pit straight, we are gonna finish the race well ahead of Stroll. Not sure what happened with him, 6 seconds ahead of him. But just know there's about 5 guys in the bottom of the field that all kind of got shafted. We all overcut. That's all it's gonna be is just a lousy P20th after some game-breaking bugs. But that's it for us. Esteban Ocon did a great job. I mentioned he started farther down in the pack and he climbed pretty high in the standings. But we'll go now into the presentation and watch Max Verstappen claim another victory here in Baku.
How did they manage to achieve this win?
Well, they certainly stood out as a driver with tons of confidence on the track. I think their ability to keep their cool, even during some of the more hectic parts of the race, meant they were able to capitalise on the mistakes of other drivers, giving them the opportunity to make their way to the top spot with ease.
Here come today's winners. The team at Red Bull have done a phenomenal job recently, and it's clear to see that they've put in the work, and they should be so proud of the victory they've secured here.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Max Verstappen claims the Azerbaijan Grand Prix here in Baku. Red Bull's off to a torrent pace. I believe that's his 3rd straight victory. Charles Leclerc does a great job to hold on for Ferrari, and then obviously Checo rounding out for a double Red Bull podium. But I mean, it was just an unfortunate weekend from qualifiers into the sprint race, into the actual race. Bug riddled. It's unfortunately, it is what it is. We'll look forward. Miami's coming up. It's going to be a beautiful race weekend out there, and right now we can kind of just hopefully hold our head high knowing that we did everything we could and it still was not enough. But thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe to the videos. We'll be back for more here on F1 My Team Career. Enjoy the rest of your night, guys.